think that's one of the surprising things for Jim and for the audience, and what's sort of fun for me to explore as the character is how human-like he can be, and how much you can sort of forget that he's a robot and forget that he's android, and then suddenly you hit a kind of a strange wall where you're suddenly reminded, oh no, this is not a human being, and that's interesting to be able to play with that. He's sort of learning as well. I think the more sophisticated artificial intelligence becomes, obviously a prime part of that is the ability to learn, and the ability to go beyond what you were programmed to do. And I think that's something that we played with as well, that something quite childlike about Arthur, that he's sort of learning like a child. There's a sort of innocence about him, but that innocence is not necessarily a kind of a sign of goodness or badness. That innocence, there's a sort of unknowing and a desire to kind of learn logically from what's going on and progress. So you see him sort of starting to learn to tell jokes and that kind of thing. But you also see him making mistakes, possibly really terrible mistakes. But it doesn't come from a kind of malevolent agenda. It comes from a sort of innocent attempt to pick up on what's going on. And I think that's a kind of interesting thing to explore as well. There's a definiteness and a specificity about his movements without going into full Mr. Roboto, you know, like, but if you watched it, you would see that, oh, I see, yeah, there is something very human about him, but there is also, if you really look, no, he is actually non-human, and that's sort of uncanny. I mean, we talked a bit about the idea of, you know, what is similar and what is different about the way you relate to a pet, to an animal, so who is obviously not human, but you kind of relate to as if in certain ways that they understand or they're listening, or, you know, it's like you're with someone, you're with a living being that you can kind of relate to, but there are limitations to it. And there are certain similarities to that. You know, Arthur is like a cross between a puppy and a toaster. You know, one of the things that goes throughout the film, and that obviously towards the end of the film has a huge effect, is the idea that there is something wrong with the ship. There's some sort of glitch going on. And obviously Arthur is a part of the mechanics of the ship. And so the fact that there is something malfunctioning has huge potential consequences for Arthur. When I knew that Chris and Jennifer were going to be playing those characters, it sort of that sort of brought it all together somehow for me, that I thought that makes absolute sense. You know, these are two actors who are incredibly likable, and you do warm to, and they have something so human and relatable about them. They're also very funny, but they also have really great kind of acting chops as well. So it made sense to me that they would be the characters that you follow through all this. One of the main things about Morton in terms of working with him is he is such a kind of enthusiastic presence. He's so positive and supportive, and he's so kind of into what's going on, and yeah, just very, very enthusiastic. There's something quite sort of childlike about Morton in that respect, in that he's just very, very enthusiastic and comes up and says, oh, this is what I liked about that. You know, and sometimes actors don't like being told what is good about what they're doing, because then you kind of go, oh, and I have to do it again, and now I know what I'm doing, and you know, but he's just so enthusiastic about it, and he's just got so much energy and so much passion about what he's doing, and so committed to it, that I think, you know, that kind of seeps into everyone. And I think, you know, you've got a combination of people working on this like Chris, who has so much positive energy and is so supportive and so enthusiastic as well, and Jennifer, who's just such an extraordinary character and so wonderful and funny and so great, and it creates a kind of an atmosphere in on the set and on working on the piece that I think suffuses the film itself. I hope it does, and Morton really is, you know, the lead in that.
Hey, did you know that Walt Disney refused to allow Alfred Hitchcock to film at Disney in the early 1960s because he made that disgusting movie Psycho? For this and more movie facts, click on more videos or click on the playlist for more trailers.